It's midweek. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to The Pulse with me, Emefa Akosiadeti. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle, Accra. We're also live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125 and across the world on myjoyonline.com. Coming up this afternoon, quote, "We must be careful with what we're doing. It's not good for the country." Words of Minority Leader Alexander Penyo-Marking as he clashes with the majority leadership during the vetting of Supreme Court nominee Justice Hafizata Amaleboba.
Chairman, this strategy by the majority, that they have their time. When it gets to my time, then I have follow-up. Anyway, I will yield to you. If you, Chairman, would want to allow these things, no problem. Follow up, and if you think that you will be distracting me, I don't have members.
We have more, plus take you live to Parliament for the very latest on the vetting, and as well the New Patriotic Party's decision to schedule its presidential primaries for the 2028 flag bearer has sparked strong and immediate reactions across and within the party. We'll speak to the party plus get reactions from the various camps within the party. And also, President Mahama criticizes centralized waste management set to introduce new guidelines for MMDCEs to choose sanitation service providers through competitive bidding. And as well, Ghana's disease surveillance and outbreak response threatened after fire damages key facilities at the National Public Health and Reference Lab at Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Reference lab. And we were able to contain their library, but for the accounts office, their stores, admin, and lab, it's totally down.
We've got details as the Ghana National Fire Service begins investigation to ascertain the cause of the fire. We've got these and many more stories coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse is always brought to you by Defendro Cough Expectorant. Defendro, breathe easy, feel better. I am Emefa Akosiadeti, and thank you always for choosing us. We appreciate your company this afternoon. We'll start with the nomination and the vetting of the Supreme Court justices. Now, Justice Hafizata Amaleboba, the second woman nominated to the Supreme Court, has just concluded a rigorous vetting session before Parliament's Appointment Committee. Appointed to the Court of Appeal in 2022 by former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, she was one of 15 justices elevated that year. Now, prior to her appellate role, Justice Amaleboba served on the High Court bench, where she handled several high-profile cases, including her role in the three-member panel that adjudicated the widely publicized Dr. McPalm coup d'etat trial. Now, she brings deep expertise in family law and land law and alternate dispute resolution. We'll delve deeper into some of the perspectives she shared with the committee. But first, let's cross over to the committee room and speak with my colleague James Aveji for some details on particularly that clash between the minority and majority during this particular vetting. James, tell us what really sparked the clash.
Well, it all started even before Minority Leader Alexander Penyo-Marking began making his statement or took his session to question the nominee. So before he began his questioning, the Majority Leader, Mahama Yariga, walked into the vetting committee room and took his seat right beside Roxy. When the turn of the Minority Leader, at the time, the Deputy chairman of the committee, Honorable Rickett Hagan, was the one who was presiding over affairs. And so he left the seat and yielded the seat to the minority leader, who said that he had an indication that the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, would also want to have some input. Remember, Mahama Yariga is not a member of the committee, but per the orders of the House, leadership of Parliament have unlimited, restriction to have access to any committee proceedings at any point in time and make input. And so he said that he got the indication that Honorable Mahama Yariga would want to be engaging the nominee. The chairman should allow the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, to have his turn so that he, the ranking member, would have the final bite of the vetting process. But the chairman of the committee.
Well, I think we have a network challenge, and we'll try and reconnect with my colleague. But I can. All right, James, I can hear you now. Please proceed.
So that was the initial disagreement between the three of them. But the chairman insisted that he continues and take the floor. And so he began. At a point, he was inquiring about whether or not there has been some infractions on the Constitution when President John Dramani Mahama imposed salary sanction on his appointees who were not able to file their assets on his initial 17th April deadline, I should think. You remember that the Fourth Estate publication in the middle or early April indicated that about 55 appointees of the president could not file, declare their assets as enshrined in Article 286 of the Constitution. At the back of that, the president launched the Code of Conduct and gave fresh deadline to the appointees to file gave a deadline which was April 17 for the appointees who failed to do that, to file or declare their assets. And so there was another infraction where a number of the appointees couldn't meet that deadline. It was on the back of that that the president actually imposed some salary sanctions where a number of them forfeited about between 1 to 3 months' salaries, which was supposed to be dedicated to the Mahama care. And so the minority leader took the Supreme Court nominee on that act of the president and asked whether or not there's been some infraction. And so the chairman of the committee intervened at that point. And so it was when he was about getting another question through to the nominee that the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, indicated that he wanted to get a follow-up question on that. Then the minority leader disagreed, insisting that he does not like such interference, and that is why he indicated prior to his beginning that if the majority leader has any questions, he should go ahead and take his bite before he takes the final bite. The chairman of the committee insisted that there has not been any infraction. In fact, per the orders of Parliament, any member of the committee is allowed to take a follow-up question on a substantive question asked by a different member of the committee. And so he insisted that the majority leader should go ahead and ask the follow-up question. Then the majority leader, when he took the ground, decided to extend his congratulatory message to the nominee before he proceeded. At that point, the majority leader got infuriated and interjected, making the point that he cannot use his follow-up question, which is an interjection to his thoughts, to be extending courtesy call and congratulatory message to the nominee. So he should have just gone ahead to ask the question. That is what led to the back and forth between the three of them. At that point, you would see the deputy minority leader, also deputy ranking on the committee, Madam Patricia PJ, trying to intervene, signaling to the minority leader to take it easy. And so it led to the back and forth. The chairman insisted on his right and allowed the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, to go on and ask his question. Then the second incident occurred when the minority leader, Apanyo Makin, reframed the question when the nominee stayed away from answering the question. He reframed it and asked again. And the chairman of the committee, Bernard Ahiafo, interjected again, saying that, he's asking the same question in a different way. The nominee has stated his points as to whether or not there's a lacuna in the constitution which fails to prescribe a sanction, a particular or specific sanction to appointees who fail to file their assets within a specific time. And that the minority leader did not take kindly at all with the majority, the chairman of the committee, Bernard Ahiafo, who also went on to insist that he cannot, in his word, he cannot be intimidated by the actions of the minority leader, and that he is a man of indomitable spirit, and rule that the nominee should not answer the question, and that if the minority leader has any follow-up question or any other substantive question, he can go ahead and ask that. Then you see the minority leader, Alexander Makin, retract into his seat. He sank into his seat, and after a few seconds came back to utter these words that Lord grant him patience. He said that twice, and then he continued to ask his question. And so it pretty looks like the friction between the two leadership of the committee is not going any time soon. As far as the vetting process is concerned, we were thinking that what we saw in the last few days, where there's been peaceful coexistence between the two parties, what we are going to see on the last day of the vetting, only for us to witness what we have witnessed. It is unclear what the temperature will be, because we still have one more nominee to vet who, as we speak, we are getting two conflicting indications. We're getting the indication that the final vetting of the final nominee has been postponed. There's another indication that they will be back to continue. Usually, before they go on break, the committee chairman would have indicated how long the break is going to take and when they will be coming back, but he failed to give us that indication. And so we are just hanging in the balance here, wondering whether or not they will return to continue with the vetting process.
We'll get a lot more deeper into hair vetting, but I'd like to bring to our viewers the very first incident that started the clash, if they haven't been following already. Take a watch.
Chairman, this strategy by the majority, that they have their time. When it gets to my time, then I have follow-up. Anyway, I will yield to you. If you, chairman, would want to allow these things, no problem. Follow up, and you think that you'll be distracting me. I don't.
Honourable members, I believe everybody must be treated equally, particularly the leaders. There are instances where the minority leader called for a follow-up question. It's been granted the floor to ask a follow-up question. In all the vetting that we've carried out, the record can bear me out. So if the majority leader wants a follow-up question, I think it is in good faith that we ask him to do a follow-up question. Please, majority leader, you have the floor.
Well, this being the first time I'm speaking, let me join colleagues to congratulate my 1 year.
Mr. Chairman, let's be careful what we are doing. It's not good for democracy. if it's a follow-up, let me congratulate my 1 year. If it's a follow-up, you should go straight to the chairman. Don't be doing these things. So it may be politically convenient for you, but tomorrow it will hit us as a parliament.
I can just understand the minority leader this afternoon. Because if the person going to ask the follow-up question is now talking to the nominee for the first time, what is wrong?
But he would have the opportunity to ask his own substantive questions. So he's already indicated to the deputy chair that he will take his turn after me. Please, let us not set a bad precedent. This is not the first time we are doing vetting. Let's stop this. You are the majority. You may not want to delve deeper. Allow us to do our work. What is happening is not good, Mr. Chairman. When we talk, it's like we are sharing your power. Let's stop it. It's not good for the country. It's not good for our image as Parliament. And I protest. He says he's going to have his turn.
Honourable members, I do not think any rules of the House has been flouted. So I'll proceed to give the floor to the Majority Leader. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Let me join some colleagues to congratulate my 1 year senior at the bar on your nomination to the Supreme Court.
I mean, of course, if you missed the vetting, the full vetting is still on our social media page. You can visit. But James, let's get into it. So Justice Hafizata Amale-Boba also addressed the issue of Ghana's child support system. What exactly prompted that response?
So when you read her profile, it indicates that she has some rich experience. In fact, part of her expertise is in family and marriage issues settlement. And so the question was put as to the things children go, especially in the cases of divorce and sharing of properties and all of that, where she opines that we need to deliberate about how we can get support for children, especially at a time where the court is trying to settle such issues when they come up. Earlier, there was questions about how there is undue delay in the settlement of these cases where children are caught up in some of these things. And so for her, she's opining or advocating that we have a national or stakeholder discussion as to how we can provide some support for such children while their parents go through some of these settlements and the court proceedings prolong on some of these issues.
Right, James, again, let me show you at what point she said that.
We have child support in Ghana. And so in the court, you can bring an application to the court.
Coming up in the last 3 days about whether or not there is exact separation of powers and how the advantages and disadvantages of those two, where she says, although the Constitution prescribes that the three arms of government must be independent from each other, there needs to be a point where all of them would have to interconnect with each other to see to smooth running of the state, especially on matters that diverge from each other. There's been discussion about whether or not the judiciary is wholly independent from the executive, especially as well as the legislature, where some of the nominees had the view that although there is independence, the judiciary doesn't seem to be financially independent, because sometimes when they present their budgets to Parliament and even the executive tend to cut down those budget allocations to them. And so she believes that at every point in time, although there is the prescription of independence, the three arms of government must at a point interconnect with each other for a smoother running of the state.
Right, James, thank you. But again, I'll show you that at one as well.
Of separation of powers.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Now, the various arms of government, the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, are all independent. But they have to be interdependent as well to ensure that we have cohesive administration of governance. And so we would have a situation where Parliament would approve the budget of the judiciary. And we have a situation where in the Supreme Court's exercise of its exclusive original jurisdiction, it can have oversight responsibility or review, what is called, informally called the judicial review powers of the Supreme Court, to determine whether Parliament or the executive are acting in accordance with the Constitution. So even though they are independent, they cannot be separate because we are running a governance system. And so they must work together to be cohesive. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Right, so the second woman who was appointed by the president, if she goes through, would be headed to the Supreme Court. But James, you were saying earlier that we're quite unsure whether the final vetting or the last nominee, Justice Kweku Teriakabwafo, would probably be vetted today. Is this what you've been picking up?
Exactly. So at the end of every proceeding or every vetting process, when there's supposed to be a break, the chairman of the committee would announce the duration of the break and when we are supposed to return. In fact, at the end of the final vetting of every day, if there is going to be a vetting the next day, he would sometime adjourn and tell us when to reconvene the next day and the names of the nominees who will be vetted. But at this particular ending of the vetting of Justice Hafizat Amaliboba, the chairman did not give us any indication as to when we'll be returning and as to whether or not we'll be having the last nominee. The vacuum created by this is filled by some rumors that the last nominee vetting may not come on, but the exact reason hasn't been allocated yet, hasn't been given as to why it will not come on. At a point, even before I joined online, I saw a chief walk into the room and was taking his seat, and someone approached him to speak a few words to him, and then he left the room. And so we are now checking, especially with the clerk to the committee, as to whether or not this vetting will happen. If it will not happen, what reasons may be attributed to that as to why it will not happen. Personally, I had tried to get in touch with the chairman of the committee, Bernard Ahiafo, to confirm from him, but have not been successful yet. We would also explore that avenue and see what the indications will be. But as far as the rest of the media team is concerned, I'm sure the House proceedings on the floor of Parliament is in session 9, so a number of us have been moving towards the chamber itself. We will be confirming that as to whether or not this will happen or not. MFR.
Right, thank you, James. And of course, you want to stay with us here because if indeed that final vetting will happen, it will be Justice Kweku Teriakabwafo, and we'll all be waiting for that as well. But now let's talk about the New Patriotic Party, as it has announced January 31, 2026 as the date for its presidential primaries to choose their party's flag bearer for the 2028 general elections. This decision was approved at National Council meeting held on Tuesday, June 17, 2025. The meeting also focused on the party's internal restructuring and preparations for the upcoming annual National Delegates Conference, where proposed amendments to the NPP Constitution will be considered. Here is a statement from the party, which I shall be reading to you shortly on your screen. Now, it says that the New Patriotic Party to hold presidential primaries on 31st January 2026 But I'll just go straight to the content of it. Now, the New Patriotic Party has scheduled its presidential primaries for the 31st day of January 2025 to elect the party's 2028 presidential candidate. This crucial decision was taken by the party's National Council pursuant to Article 13(1)(1). These are all clauses of the NPP Constitution, which mandate the council to fix date and venue for the election of the party's presidential candidate. The meeting of the National Council was held on Tuesday, 17th June 2025, to deliberate on the party's rebuilding exercise, including the organization of the upcoming annual National Delegates Conference, where the party is expected to consider proposed amendments to the party's constitution. Now, Frank Davies-led Constitution Amendment Committee, the Frank Davies-led Constitution Amendment Committee submitted a compilation of the amendment proposals it's received from party members and identifiable groups to the General Secretary for onward circulation to regional and constituency secretariats of the party in line with Article 19B of the Constitution ahead of the delegates' conference. The committee also presented their reports to National Council, where the committee recommended to National Council to fix an early date for the conduct of presidential primaries based on the overwhelming proposals from party members and the extensive stakeholder engagement that was held. It continues to say that after extensive deliberations, National Council overwhelmingly adopted the committee's report, particularly the aspects relating to the presidential primaries, which was strongly argued to be the best approach to urgently fill the apparent leadership vacuum in the party's reorganization drive. And on the National Annual Delegates Conference, it says that in respect of the organization of the Annual Delegates Conference, the party constituted a 9-member conference planning committee to spearhead the preparations for the conference, which is scheduled to take place at the University of Ghana Sports Stadium from 18th to 20th July 2025. Now, the committee is composed as follows: Honorable Joseph Owusu, Chairman; Henry Nana Boachif Kosa, Vice Chairman; Alhaji Haruna Mohammed, Member and Secretary to the committee; Dr. Charles Dramina, Member; Divine Otu Agohom, Member; Honorable Abna Ose Asari, she's a member; Honorable Jerry Ahmed Shaib is a member; Haja Safia Mohammed, she is a member; and Salam Mustafa as well, a member. Now, the party employs all its members, particularly delegates to the conference, to pursue the amendment proposals to be circulated by the General Secretary, which shall be reduced into amendments motions by the Constitution Amendment Committee to guide the consideration and debate at the extraordinary committee level. And on the Ablekuma North parliamentary elections, they've been addressing that one as well. It says that the National Council noted with concern the contemptuous conduct of the Ghana police, who are working under the instruction of the Minister for Interior and the Attorney General, in failing and refusing to comply with the orders of the High Court to provide security to the Electoral Commission to complete the collation of the Ablekuma North parliamentary results. The EC has confirmed that there's no court process stopping them from completing the collation and to declare the results. The only reason why His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his NDC are not allowing the police to provide security to the EC to complete the collation of the outstanding 3 polling stations is because they know they have lost the elections and are only bent on using the police to frustrate this exercise and deny the good people of Ablekuma North a coming days Ablekuma North a parliamentary representation. Well, the NPP wishes to serve notice that we shall, in the coming days, be rolling out a series of actions to get the powers that be to uphold the democratic rights of the people of Ablekuma North. And that will be, it's quite a tall one. But let's go on phone and talk to Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. Thank you for joining us, Haruna, and good afternoon. I see that you have been giving us reasons why you've decided to pick the dates that you have. And I'm also quite aware, I appreciate the fact that the Constitution says that, well, not less than 24 months, then you can start. But why particularly this time and the dates?
The Constitution also went further to say that the National Council is clothed with the power to vary the date. In this case, the National Council could have decided that we should have the elections of the flag bearer on the 7th of January 2025.
Okay.
Whichever time the National Council decides would be appropriate in the spirit of the Constitution of the party.
I mean, yes, that said, it says that unanimously there were no oppositions at all. What's special about the 31st date? As you have mentioned that, of course, you've got the power to choose, but I'm certain that dates may have its connotations and maybe some reasons why you chose that particular date.
There was a very strong report from the Constitutional Amendment Committee, and they said that based on the overwhelming proposal from the party members and extensive stakeholder engagement, they held that position. So if a committee of council is giving you such a report and looking at the stature and the members in that particular committee based on the proposals they have received, and also looking at the environment, the conditions available to us clearly indicate that we need to have an opposition leader at this point in time to be able to hold the country to a better place, because the government is deciding that they want to do things that are very unlawful, and we think that we need to check them. We also have to market our candidate enough and our ideas so that people will get to understand that the alternative that we have taken for the good people of Ghana will not help us. And that is why nurses are very uncomfortable when even the documentation of their conditions of service had been completed. The government of the day had to abandon that. Ghanaians are also seeing that instead of us going to court to prosecute, we are persecuting in the media. And I think that it is not good for us. So we need to have the opposition leader and to be able to champion some of these particular posts.
Okay, I mean, you talk about the party restructuring. You want to let me in a bit on that?
In terms of party restructuring, there are several proposals that came through with the Microcue Committee, and these particular committees that are supported, that have submitted their report, their recommendations are in respect of amendments to the Constitution, which also contribute or feed into the restructuring of the party. First, if you check their proposal on the polling stations, and the polling stations, the number of polling station executives has been varied based on the recommendations of this committee. Okay. Again, at the electoral area level, the structure has also changed from 1 to a number of 5 when approved by conference. So today, as the letter says, the General Secretary is mandated by the Constitution of the party to circulate, and he has circulated the soft copy of the document, and by the close of tomorrow, the hard copy of the document will also be circulated per the instructions of the Constitution of the party.
Okay.
So there are a lot of proposals that are put in there. There are about 300 of them that are put in there, which is also forging forward for a restructuring of the party or changing the basic structure of the party. 300
is quite a lot. Are you prioritizing some? Have you identified the ones that you think that are quite pressing? And so if you're unable to deal with all of the 300, you may have some which are the most important for you as a party?
There are some that will be repetitive. There are 300 because the Constitution says that when you submit the proposals, the proposals must be a stand-alone proposal. So if I submit a proposal that is similar to your proposal, what happens is that your proposal should be submitted by way of motion. My own should also be submitted by way of motion. And it's left with the conference to merge them and decide that we should rather capture it this way. We should reject this or we should accept that. So all the similarities in that will come forward with respect to the amendment will be looked at collectively, and Congress will be paired with the right recommendations as it is made. But in these particular circumstances, we are by law established to submit to the constituency party to go through all the proposals to ascertain that their proposals have been captured or received and put on the motions for them to give us a response.
In all of your engagement, did the Osei Mensa Bonsu report feature significantly?
In where I stand, there is no any report in our party called Osei Mensa Bonsu report.
Okay. He wasn't tasked to oversee any after the elections in the Ashanti region. Maybe that's not the name of it.
There was no any assignment to Osei Mensa Bonsu, and no report has been submitted to the party by Osei Mensa Bonsu.
Okay. All right. Please hold on for me, and let me engage Kwesi Kwarteng, who speaks for Kennedy in Japan concerning elections and his presidential bid. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Kwesi. So you've heard the timelines. Are you okay with the timelines?
Well, when it comes to the timelines, I think we respect the National Council, we respect decisions of the National Council. I even in my personal view, I do not think there will be any qualms with regards to the timelines that has been issued out, except to say that if we look at the general reception to the suggested approaches that were recommended, the National Council, which people are considering or proposing from top-bottom approach or whatsoever, you realize that the reception has been that decision may be quite unpopular. But of course, I mean, those are the general sentiments around. But
which one of the decisions particularly?
So first of all, I made a point that when it comes to the approach of voting or the approach of the presidential elections, recall that in our party structure, the history and the precedent has always been that before presidential elections, ordinarily would have had the polling station elections, then to the constituency, then to the constituency, from the constituency, then to the regional executives, then to the national, and then to the presidential. But it appears there are also suggestions and recommendations that it should be the top to bottom approach, where the people are proposing that they have to be the presidential elections first.
Okay.
Before and they select the national executives up to the polling station executives. But I'm saying that with regards to the letter that came from the office of the general secretary, of course, my senior brother here, he may be able to throw more light and clarity into that it really didn't address that in clear terms and precision as to which approach that we are going to use. And I'm sure it leaves a lot of people quite to speculate. And particularly when a lot of people also believe that if it has to be the top-bottom approach, you realize that the general comments on social media across the length and breadth of ordinary Ghanaians believe that, of the view that it's quite unpopular. But so far as he's here, I'm sure he may be able to throw.
Okay, so you say that you hope that they considered everything arriving at this this date. Before I come to what you mean by everything, would you say that the date favors you or not? Does dates really matter as well in your campaigning?
I mean, you see, the truth is that if you look at all the candidates, particularly the dominant ones, and I mean, without mentioning was the Honorable Kennedy Japan and Dr. Baobia, the two predominant ones, I am not sure these are candidates who needs time to market themselves. Honorable Kennedy Japan, for instance, has been in the space since 92 as a founding member of the party. Dr. Baobia too has been around, very active for at least the past 16 years. I am not so sure whether there is so much qualms with regards to it. They don't need so much marketability. They only have to make some time and go and sell their message to the good people of the party. And so I don't think that there is so much qualms when it comes to it. But like I indicated, the cumulative with regards to the meeting that was held yesterday, the National Council meeting, I am giving you the assurance that the Kent team in due course will make an official position on it. But of course, not in any way to suggest that we are going to disrespect the decision of National Council or something. No. I mean, clearly you realize that is a constitutional provision, and they have the mandate to stipulate or, propose it. And
While we wait for the official statements from the Canadian-Japan camp, if I may so describe it, what is his initial reaction?
Official position.
The official position. What is his informal position so far?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that if you look at the general base of the party, I'm not sure there is so much resentment or disagreement with the date. I mean, even at my personal level, and let me issue a disclaimer here, at my personal level, I don't think there is so much problem with the date. Indeed, I agree, we should be able to have a direction, we should be able to have a leader of the party so that we also be able to put the government into straight account and focus there. I am saying that when it comes to, quite away from the date, when it comes to the approach of voting, where there has been proposals and counter proposals as to whether bottom up or top bottom approach, and whether or not we are having polling station elections, then we'll move right straight to the presidential elections, primaries. I am of the view that the Office of the General Secretary, especially Dan he's here, may be able to help all of us by throwing more clarity into that. Because if you look at the statement that you just read, the reference was just that they were going to consider or adopt the approach that was recommended by the Frank Davis Committee, if I'm right. And I'm sure they could have at least addressed this in a very clear language so that we know that, yes, in the statement, it was captured that they were going to use a bottom-up approach or top-bottom approach. But, I mean, what we are all hearing is that they are going to use a top-bottom approach where they are going to start from the presidential primaries, which, if you look at the social comments, the reception by the general public has been that it's more or less like an unpopular decision. But, I mean, whichever way is a decision of NEC, we as party people, even if you disagree, you will still have to use the right medium of addressing your concerns.
Okay, I also have Miracles Dennis-Abuaji joining me, speaks for the former Vice President. Miracles, thank you for joining us. And so this date, how's it coming up for you? Is it okay? Do you have concerns?
Well, let me say a very warm good afternoon. I think I've listened to all the initial commentary, and I don't there's any issue with the date. I mean, we are candidates. We are simply waiting for the rules and guidelines regarding the contest, and then we'll put ourselves in readiness. And so now that we know it's on 31st of January, we simply have to get down and talk to the party people and give them the cogent reasons why the party needs the leadership of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia going into the future.
I mean, knowing what we know about the date now, and you've confidently said that the date is the date, what are you going to be doing actively?
Basically, to engage the party people across the 40,000 polling stations and the over 8,000 electoral areas, and the rest of the delegates at various levels. Basically, that's what it's going to be.
Okay, I mean, many have said that, well, and of course you have just said as well that, well, the date, as we have arrived at it, is what we should work with. What goes into selecting the date, which will be what they have discussed at NEC and all of that? You would hear Kwesi Kwati say that he hopes that everything was considered. I'm not sure what everything means, but beyond you being okay with the date, after reading the statements from the party, it's described as the Frank Davis-led committee, restructuring and all of that. Do you have any concerns at all with so far how the date was arrived at, since it says it was unanimously agreed upon?
No, I think it's spot on. I mean, we found ourselves in a very extraordinary situation as a party. And this is all part of the reformation process. Fundamentally, you would agree, and there's no doubt about that the fact that there is a vacuum when it comes to the flag bearer or the presidential candidate of the party, it has led to too many bickering in the party. And as long as you leave that vacuum, every individual that believes that he or she can win would stimulate some of these bickerings at various levels of the party. And so for me, I think one of the crucial decisions that the National Council took was to simply, as early as possible, get this flag bearership out of the way. And immediately we have a leader of the party then this flag bearer, who is going to bear the flag of the party into the 2028 elections, cannot work with the entire party to continue the reorganization and mobilization across the country and at various levels. I think it makes a lot of sense. It makes sense that we have a leader, and then once we have the leader would work with the party in the reorganization, remobilization, and then reformation processes. It makes it easier. It becomes a bit more murky when there's a vacuum in the leadership and you attempt to do any form of structuring, especially at the base, because then the divisions and the factionalization continues with the hope that I can go and do whatever I want to do there, and eventually I stand a chance of leading the party. Okay. And so let's get a leader. When we get a leader, I will settle the base. At this point, everybody will work towards a vision and plan of the leader, and then it makes it a bit easy to unify at that point towards the bigger goal.
Right, thank you, Miracles. Let me come back to you, Haruna. You have heard what Miracles just said. He mentioned one thing that's outstanding: unify. Now, for you as a party, election is election. How are you ensuring that the dates you have set, the timelines that you're working with, will ensure some form of unity within the party, and especially for the flag bearer aspirants?
MFA, before I proceed to answer your question, I don't know where people are getting the communications from. If you read carefully the General Secretary's letter, there is nothing like bottom up or top down. What is there is that the presidential election is captured to be conducted first. The presidential election is a stand-alone election. It is not a combined election. So a decision has been taken by the National Council, and the presidential primaries will be held on the 31st of January. If the other elections are to be held, the National Party will issue timelines again with regards to the conduct of the other elections. So we are dealing currently with the date set for the presidential elections, and other modalities for the elections. We promise the general public that it is going to be free and fair. Okay. So for us to ensure unity, I have always said one thing. I have a casting vote. He has a casting vote. The other person has a casting vote. However, I am a leader and conducting the election. There is the need for me to be fair. And the national leadership is promising any individual that is interested to contest for the flag bearership elections, we will make sure that we are going to be fair in all processes.
Okay.
In due course, the party will come out with guidelines, and that is why the party is issuing and tabling the proposals in time, and we are also going to follow through the 6-month period by which the 31st will also reach filing or picking of nomination, filing, vetting, and all the procedures will ensure the utmost transparency and respect for each and every individual in this process. We have one party, which is the New Patriotic Party. We have a great, wider human resource base. Miracle is a fine individual. Kwesi Kwatin is a very fine individual. All of them are human resource of our party. We need to be fair to all of them and ensure that the right process is used and the right candidate is elected. Right. So that we can get utmost peace, progress, unity, and win power in 2028 elections.
Okay. Haruna, let me just have your attention a lot more on the report. Now, I acknowledge that statement that I read highlighted Frank David-led committee. But in your explanation, especially when you're explaining about the restructuring, you touched slightly on the Michael Quay report, which was submitted, and we all followed that. But you say that there was no report such as the Oseche Mensah Bonsu report. Maybe let me rephrase the question. Was Oseche Mensah Bonsu giving that responsibility to, in the Ashanti region, investigate why the party lost in 2024?
There was no any directive from the National Party for regions to conduct such exercise. Indeed, the National Council's decision was for Michael Quay's committee to take input and proposals or reports from individuals and also to meet with the 276 constituencies across the country. So if you say a report or say Mensah Bonsu report, I can tell you officially the party has not commissioned any committee headed by Oseche Mensah Bonsu to present a report to the party. Hence, the non-availability of such a report before party for me as the Deputy General Secretary to interrogate and comment or make evaluation of such.
Okay, would you be surprised if I tell you that I interviewed him personally on the Joy News channel, and then he indicated that yes, he was chairing a committee that's overseeing such investigation, except he acknowledged that that report was not ready at the time he granted that interview. Will you be surprised?
That means that is his question. If you ask him, he will answer that to you. But you are asking me as a Deputy General Secretary, speaking for the new Patriotic Party. And I'm telling you on record that we have not commissioned anybody like that as a national party, and we have not also authorized any regional party to commission a body to do such an exercise and be considered a report of the party. If such an exercise went on and the region so decides, it will have become an input to the work of the National Party Committee, and that would have been under consideration by that committee. And I was not a member of the Michael Quay's committee, and I don't know whether such a report came as an input to them, but we don't have a standalone committee headed by Oseche Mensah Bonsu.
July is just around the corner. Let's talk about the delegate conference. Is 17th of July?
Yes, 19th of July.
19th.
However, people will be arriving within certain date period. We have people coming from far away. They will arrive a day or two before those particular date period. And that is why the party is stating 18th to 20th of July, because people, some of them will be leaving on 20th. So the conference they spread across to the 18th to 20th, but the conference will be done on the 19th of July.
Anything specifically and especially the party is doing, anticipating the conference?
Currently, the party has put up the planning committee, which is the overall committee. There will be other committees that will be put in place: the grounds and operations, the protocol secretariat, the food, accommodation, transport. We also have the security committee and all that. That will also be put together, and the General Secretary will put that under his hand.
Right. Thank you so much, Haruna, for engaging with us today, particularly on the back of that statement that was released by your party. And also, Miracles Abuaje, thank you for joining us today. And Kwesi Kwati as well, thank you for joining us. Of course, we will be following up on all the activities, but just maybe let me give the final words to Kwesi Kwati. And Miracles, if you have any final words, but it sounded as though you had rapped for me. And so, Kwesi, if you have any final words, please proceed.
Well, I mean, the general assurance is that, like I always indicate, and I want to take this platform to reiterate, we are one party. Beyond context and competition, there will always be cooperation. Of course, I have my candidates. We are of the view that the markets are calling for the Honorable candidate Japan, and then we just want to assure all supporters of Honorable candidate Japan, of course, to also preach unity, to preach peace and be resolute. At the end of the day, is over 200,000 people that are going to decide. The sovereignty resides in the people. Maybe people may have their own proposals, but the most important thing is that we get to the grounds, engage the party folks, engage the base. That is where the sovereignty resides. And at the end of the day, we are confident that they are going to make the right decision that tallies with what the good people of Ghana want.
All right, thank you so much, Chrissy. Miracles, do I still have you with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Right, Miracles, give me your final words.
Well, the date has been set, 31st January 2026. Let the debate start. Let it be issue-based. Let it be on the critical things that are relevant to the new patriotic party and the people of this country. And I urge every single NPP member across the country to eschew comments and remarks that would affect the party after the contest.
Thank you, Miracles. You have just called for the debate, and I'm quite ready for that debate. I look forward to all of that debate that will be emerging. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. You're still watching The Pulse. Please stay with me. There's more after this break. Welcome back to The Pulse, and thank you for staying. Now, President John Mahama has criticized Ghana's current sanitation and waste management structure, describing it as overly centralized and ineffective. He announced that new guidelines will soon be introduced to enable metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to transparently select their sanitation service providers through a competitive procurement process. The president made these remarks while addressing municipal, metropolitan and district chief executives at an orientation session held at the Institute of Local Government Studies in Medina. Investigative journalist Manasseh Zuriawuni some days ago lauded President Mahama for terminating the long-standing sanitation contract between Zoomlion Ghana Limited and the Youth Employment Agency, YEA. The journalist, in a formal petition to the presidency, argued that the deal had led to massive inefficiencies and the exploitation of sanitation workers, especially street sweepers, while funneling large sums of public funds to private entity.
Now, let's be clear about sanitation services. We pledged to the Ghanaian people that we'll implement a reset agenda, didn't we? This agenda applies to every facet of national life, including sanitation and waste management. Our current waste management model is not working because it has become highly centralized. MMDCEs have largely not been involved in the procurement of waste management equipment and accessories. They have also felt that supervision of sanitation workers and cleaners is not a part of their responsibility. We must therefore implement a more effective model that transfers full responsibility for waste management and sanitation to MMDCEs. 10% of your common fund in the guidelines is earmarked for sanitation. In addition, funds from the communication service levy tax, which is administered by the YEA, will be decentralized to your districts. You will receive guidelines for transparently selecting your sanitation service providers through a competitive process. And listen to this one. You will be fully responsible for the process and also fully responsible for the outcome.
Now, President Mahama has also issued a directive to MMDCEs, giving them until July 15 to declare their assets. He warned that the Auditor General and the other anti-corruption agencies will be closely monitoring their dealings.
We have taken steps to transfer the highest amount of funds in the history of the Fourth Republic to you from the District Assembly's Common Fund. As the Finance Minister told you, 80% of the District Assembly's Common Fund is coming directly to you. We expect you to ensure the judicious and transparent use of these resources. The funds must be utilized in the interest of our people and not for our creature comforts. The Auditor General and other anti-corruption institutions will be watching your work. And as I've said previously, if any of these institutions starts investigating you, You don't expect me to interfere on your behalf. In the meantime, I wish to remind you that you are among the office holders required to declare your assets. And so I expect that by July 15th, all of you would have declared your assets.
He told the new MMDCEs they may be the last batch to be appointed.
You are hereby tasked to establish district sanitation task forces with clear responsibilities and regular performance assessments. You are tasked to mobilize communities, including schools, faith-based institutions, and market groups for cleanup, education, and inspection drives. You are required to partner with the private sector for waste-to-energy projects and sustainable recycling value chains. You must enforce your sanitation bylaws rigorously, including penalties for illegal dumping, open defecation, and improper waste disposal. Under the last administration, they passed a law to clean your front. How many districts are implementing this clean your front? If everybody cleaned the front of his house, it will make your work easier. And so if you can enforce it and make sure that those who don't do it are sanctioned, then it will make your work easier. MMDCEs, you may be the last batch of MMDCEs appointed. The National Review Committee is going round. I'm sure some of you would have been consulted, and it will present its recommendation in August this year. And one of the major items that has been canvassed is the election of DCs. There's no doubt that Ghanaians want their DCs elected. MMDC is elected. Several surveys have shown that they prefer to have your category of political officers elected. So you may be the last dinosaurs who are appointed. Those who succeed you might have to go through elections.
Well, let's engage Vitus Axim. He is an anti-graft campaigner. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. First, one of my favorite questions to ask, everything in the actions of the president and this government, would you say is a good trot to achieving an anti-corruption country?
I think so. It's a good start with the MMDCs. It's normal that when they are appointed, they would have some orientation so that they will know what they expected to do, what the president expects of them, what the people expect of them. So I think it's a good start.
Well, let's get into what he says, that moving forward, there's going to be competitive MMDs, the assemblies with the sanitation providers. They have to really compete for such contracts. What do you make of that? How can we even ensure that there is transparency in this competitive bidding?
Well, the assemblymen and women have to do their work. I know in the past some assemblymen and women have become contractors all of a sudden, and they tend to award contracts to themselves. But if there is serious oversight by the assemblies, both as an assembly but also as individuals in the assembly, they should be able to question some of the things if they are not being done properly. But that is not enough. The ordinary people in the constituency or the district need to also be alert and watch how contracts are awarded and how they are executed. If we all do that and not just sit aloof, then we should not blame the president for, let's say, shoddy work.
Okay. I mean, for example, should an assemblyman bid for such a contract? Should they? I mean, they're a citizen after all. Should they?
Well, there's this issue about conflict of interest. If the person was already a contractor and has the necessary equipment and qualifications, he or she can bid, but he or she should not be part of the tender committee that is going to look at those contracts. We always say that you recluse yourself, but you see, you may do that in the public domain, but tell your colleagues on the committee that, oh, I am interested in this contract, and they may still give it to you. So it is not perfect. And so the ideal situation would have been that assemblymen and women should not be interested in bidding for contracts from their own assembly.
Okay.
But of course, but it's very difficult. Some are going to say, but like you said, they are citizens. Why shouldn't they?
Right. I mean, for civil society and watchdog groups, I mean, for people like you, what would you recommend? What role should they play, at least during this procurement time, to serving as watchdogs so that there's transparency maybe? What role should you be playing?
I am saying that the Assembly has a tender committee. And they also have other committees like the Infrastructure Development Committee also. So these are the committees that are supposed to watch what is happening and draw the attention of the entire assembly, particularly the MMD, to any irregularities that are going on, and demand that there's transparency. They could behave like Parliament. If they're not happy with anything, you can summon the person to the assembly to answer questions. And nobody would like to be embarrassed. So if you do that, especially if you are a member of the assembly, you want to conduct yourself, and you are called before the assembly to explain why you should do that, I think that it will serve to discourage others from engaging in such activities.
Okay. So the president has as well given the new MMDCEs a deadline, 15th of July, that they should also declare their assets. Beyond this, if any of them do not, what kind of punishments would you recommend?
You see, I was listening to the vetting of a judge nominee this morning, and Honorable Mr. Fayumakin asked so many questions on this asset declaration. You see, but the point is, there's a subversion of the Constitution. The Constitution says upon assumption of office. But Parliament decided to pass a law that within 6 months upon assumption of office. And so the President has given a shorter period a shorter deadline for them to declare their assets, which is a good thing, but it doesn't answer what the Constitution requires.
Okay.
But that's because we are not enforcing the law based on the Constitution. I have called on pro bono lawyers to take the matter to court and declare the Act 550 null and void. But nobody is willing to spend the time to do that. And so I heard the communication director at the presidency to say that until somebody takes the matter to court, the 6 months deadline is the law.
Which means
but
that
the law cannot, an act passed by Parliament cannot supersede the Constitution.
Right. And even so, a requirement by the president, given a deadline, 15th of July, which means that by 16th, 17th, if they don't declare their assets, there's only so much one can do.
Well, he purported did to the ministers. We don't know whether it's actually being enforced or other appointees. So it means that after 15th, he's going to sanction them.
Right.
But up to now, I haven't seen a list of ministers that have not declared their assets based on that deadline. So I don't know what will happen to the MMDs if they don't also declare.
All right. Thank you so much for talking to us on the Pulse today, Mr. Vitus Azim. Thank you. He's an anti-corrupt campaigner. Now moving on, tomorrow, Thursday, 19th June, marks World Sickle Cell Day, commemorated annually to raise international awareness about sickle cell disease observed every year on June 19. The day serves as a global call to action to alert the public to the realities and dangers of the disease. Under this year's theme, Global Action, Local Impact, Empowering Communities for Effective Self-Advocacy. In Ghana, a number of activities are being held to highlight the challenges faced by patients and caregivers, as well as promote better understanding and support for those living with the condition. And joining me via Zoom to shed more light on this is Madam Victoria Awochumesi. She is the Executive Director of the Ghana Foundation for Sickle Genetic Action, I suppose, former president of the Sickle Cell Association of Ghana and an executive member of both the Sickle Cell Support Group of Ghana and Sickle Cell Association of Ghana. She is also a caregiver, mother, and passionate advocate. Thank you for joining us today. And tomorrow is 19th of June, and it's etched in my memory because I so know that is the day we've set aside internationally to create more awareness on sickle cell disease. But for you, tell me whether in Africa we have learned a lot and we know more about sickle cell so far.
Hi, thank you for having me. So sickle cell, as it stands, is a illness that is genetically predisposed to people of African and also Middle Eastern descent. So we're very well aware of sickle cell because it's a part and parcel of who we are as Africans. With that being said, it's unfortunate that the kind of visibility and awareness we need around the illness is not as we would like to see it. But it's very much a part and parcel of us here as Africans. And for Ghana, we have approximately 25% of our population are people with sickle cell disease. So it's quite prevalent amongst us.
Now, Victoria, you are a caregiver. Tell me your experience so far as a caregiver.
Well, sickle cell disease, as it's known, is a lifelong progressive illness. And so right from birth, you end up, having to care for your child, loved one, family member with sickle cell disease. That means that, within 6 months of their birth, they start experiencing symptoms, which is swelling of the hands and feet, which is called dactylitis. At that point, they are put on an antibiotic to ensure that they will be able to fight any form of infections that they could encounter during that period of life. But almost immediately, you almost have to start guarding against all the other symptoms and crises that comes to sickle cell disease, which is, fear of stroke or potentially experiencing stroke as a child, to, acute chest syndrome, being anemic, and, having bone crisis and pain all over the body. It basically, wherever there is a bone in the body, you could experience a bone crisis. So you can imagine, some children experience, multiple infections. Any minor illness can be exacerbated because of the fact that the person has sickle cell disease. So right from the word go, you are on the alert. You have to educate yourself, but you also need to, expect that you could encounter any of these crises and find a way to guard against them.
Oh my goodness, Victoria. So for a caregiver, what's been the most challenging thing for you as a caregiver? The most challenging one?
Really, it's the lack of awareness that most people have about sickle cell disease. Because, as a caregiver, whoever you're caring for, your child, whether it's a child or family member, they have to access the schools, they have to access the hospitals. In those settings, unfortunately, it's not everybody that is well versed in, sickle cell disease to understand the nature of the illness, how it impacts the person. The fact that just by, a sickle cell patient experiencing undergoing stress alone can lead to a crisis, which could end them up in the hospital, and that could be a stay for maybe 2 days to a week, sometimes even a month or beyond, right? So, within the schools, if the person is going to school, you have to make sure that you educate the school system, the teachers, the head teacher about the person's illness and what potential triggers might lead to a crisis. They will do the same thing if the person is accessing medical care in the hospitals. as long as even the person, engaging in other activities, for instance, with swimming, it wasn't until hydroxyurea, which is a revolutionary medication, was introduced that kids could actually go swimming while they're on the medication. Because before, if a child goes swimming or does any sort of vigorous activity, and they have sickle cell disease, that is bound to lead to crisis. So it's you pretty much have to guard against everything, potentially everything and anything that the person could encounter in their lifetime.
Well, I mean, because it's genetic, knowing your status before even wanting to have a child is very important. But when it does happen, what will be your expectations from government to at least help and in such a situation?
Well, just like how we are doing at Sickle Gene Action, which is advocating for people to know their status, know your genotype, right? We're doing the same thing within our faith institutions and bodies as well, because we want people to know the importance of knowing their genotype, so that when they are transitioning from young adulthood into adulthood, they know and understand who to pair up with when it comes to marriage, procreation, and things like that. Because that is when if you're a carrier and you don't necessarily understand your genotype and how it affects you, and you get with somebody who also has the same genotype, which has like a sickling, what do you call it, the S abnormal cell in it, that is when you could procreate and then have a child with sickle cell disease. So we're starting right early. We're in schools, we're in basic schools, educating them, screening them, so that they can also learn about knowing their genotype, but also take that knowledge as they grow to help them make more informed choices when they get to the point where they can actually get with a partner. Tomorrow we are at the Akwegu JHS school, and we're screening 400 kids. We're also educating them so that they know their genotype, but they can also take, what we find is that they are able to take that knowledge back home and also educate their parents, for those who may not necessarily understand this illness, so those parents can also know and understand it, as well as the school teachers, head teachers, and whatnot.
Well, Victoria, thank you for joining us today. Tomorrow is the day that we talk more about it. What will be your final word moving in tomorrow?
We want people to learn more about sickle cell disease, know their genotype, and help spread the word that you don't have to stigmatize people with sickle cell disease. It's not a curse. It's not the end of the world. People have lived successful, fulfilling lives with sickle cell disease. So just be supportive, learn about it, and know your genotype.
Thank you so much, Victoria Chimesi, for joining us today on The Pulse to create more awareness on sickle cell disease. Tomorrow, 19th day of June, is the day we discuss and talk more about sickle cell. Now, moving away from that, Ghana's ability to track disease outbreaks, conduct critical diagnosis and respond swiftly to public health emergencies is under threat following extensive damage to the National Public Health and Reference Laboratory in Accra. The facility, which plays a crucial role in tuberculosis testing and nationwide disease surveillance, was severely affected by a fire that broke out late Tuesday night. According to the Ghana National Fire Service, the blaze damaged several essential sections of the lab, including testing areas, storage rooms, and the account office. Collins Frempon has been on the scene and has come through with this report.
According to the Ghana National Fire Service, the incident occurred around 10:30 p.m. yesterday on Tuesday night. The Ghana Fire Service was able to get here around 12 midnight, according to DCFO Daniela Mausi Into Sapon, who is the Chief Fire Officer for the Ghana National Fire Service. The information that we've picked from the ground, according to our assessments, is that about 5 different rooms housing the accounting office, a chemical laboratory, and also other stores were ravaged by the fire. And what we witnessed is that at the laboratory, most of the items have been damaged. The chemicals and also the computers and major important items have all been damaged, as well as the shops where we've seen that all the items in there, nothing can be picked from those rooms. Speaking to the DCFO, Daniela Mausi Into Sapon, who is the Chief Fire Officer, she provided an update on the situation on ground.
Yes, when you came here, you see, we finished quenching all the fire. And there are pockets of fire, so we are trying to cool it down. We got here by exactly 12:15, 12:30 thereabouts. We were able to put the fire under control. And I learned in the Office of the Records and Public Health and Reference Lab. And we were able to contain their library, but for their accounts office, their stores, admin, and lab, it's totally down. It was close to the diabetic center. That place too, we were able to salvage, and there was no problem there.
So, with regards to the cause of the fire, she can't confirm what really caused the fire at this point, but investigations are underway to ascertain what really may have caused the fire.
No, we have to investigate first. We can't make a hasty conclusion. We can't assume. For fire service, you don't assume. You make sure you say the right thing. So we'd have to give us time to finish the investigations and then get back to you.
So far, going forward, what are we going to do here? I mean, what is the next step of action?
Yeah, the next step, we've asked that they should bring a tape so that we sell a tape around the place so that nobody goes around the area. It could collapse, so we advise that nobody goes around the area whilst our men try to work on it.
The fire service faced a number of challenges when they got here. One of the major challenges was the hydrants at the facility, which is far from them, and also the highly inflammable chemicals that are used in the chemical laboratory. Director General of Ghana Health Service, Professor Samuel Kaba Akrowia, was also at the scene to assess the impact of the fire outbreak at the National Public Health and Reference Laboratory. And he reviewed that a number of measures have been put in place, including reallocation of the people in there.
There are a lot of things that we are not able to quantify yet because some part of the archives have been burnt, and we're just waiting to have a comprehensive report of the rest of the places so that we can take a decision.
So going forward, right from here, they are supposed to work. We can't just leave them idle. What is the immediate solution?
As I said, this is something the fire service is going to recommend. They will take care of that part, and I will take care of the Ghana Health Service component. That's the human resource and reallocation plans and all that. Once you have this situation, you move into the field with a plan to reallocate people. So we've already identified a place where the people will be sent to. The good news is there are no casualties. So we are extremely grateful that we don't have anyone who got himself burnt. The rest will be to relocate them. And we've created space over there to make sure that people get relocated and nobody should be harmed.
Reporting for Joy News, Collins Frimpong.
Away from that, the Member of Parliament for Iboakwa South, Dr. Kingsley Agyemang, is urging churches, mosques and traditional authorities to rally behind special needs institutions in the constituency to augment government's efforts. His call comes of the donation for 45,200 to the Kibi School for the Deaf to cover student meals until the end of the academic term in July. The donation is in direct response to an urgent appeal from the school due to delays in government's feeding support. There's more in this report.
Established in 1975, the Kibi School for the Deaf currently serves over 700 students from kindergarten to junior high school. Despite being enrolled on the Ghana School Feeding Program, persistent delays in the release of feeding grant continue to disrupt academic activities, forcing school authorities to seek urgent external feeding support. In response, the Member of Parliament for Iboakwa South constituency, Dr. Kingsley Agyemang, stepped in with a donation of over 45,000 Ghana cedis to ensure the students are fed through to the end of the term.
The school made a request to us about 2 weeks ago concerning the difficulties they're having feeding the inmates here because the government has not yet provided them with the stipend they used to give every term. So the letter was to the effect that from now to the end of the term, which is end of July, feeding was going to be a very great challenge. This is not the first time that we have come to the end of the school. We come most of the time, but this request was very, very terrifying. Immediately I informed the constituency chairman. We had a constituency executive meeting, and we quickly decided that no, we have to come here immediately to assist the school. Other than that, the school had a tendency of closing down. So we came here today to assist them. I think that the letter that they gave us, the government fees every child or every learner or inmate, I think 5 cities, 20 pesos a day. Looking at their number and doing the math, it came to about 45,200. So today we have presented 45,200 to them to enable them to feed the kids till the end of the term, which is next month ending.
Headmaster of the Kibi School for the Deaf, Sifas Kuma, expressed gratitude for the MP's timely support, commending him for his continued commitment to the school. He, however, appealed to the MP to also address the school's pressing infrastructure challenges. The MP, Dr. Kingsley Ajiman, also urged churches, mosques, and traditional leaders in the municipality to actively support special needs institutions like the Kibi School for the Deaf.
All that we are saying that this gesture, even though it is good for us, but we have checked a very important box. But we believe that it's about time the private sector got involved in these specialized schools. We have about not less than 200 churches in this constituency. We have about 20 or so mosques. And we have a lot of palaces here. We are going to lead a charge. We're going to have a stakeholder engagement. There's a reason God put us here. And I believe there's a reason this school was established here. There are so many towns in Ghana, but TB found favor and the school was established here. We believe it's about time we come together to assist the school.
For Joy News, Carlos Caloni, Chebi.
Now, the National Service Authority has assured personnel plans to increase allowances for the next service year. Director General Felix Jemfi says a series of meetings with the Finance Ministry will lead to a possible upward review of allowances in the national budget. The National Service Authority has released paying codes for 132,393 prospective national service personnel, a figure lower than numbers realized in the last 3 years. Nana Yaojima was at a pre-service orientation for potential personnel in Kumasi and has filed this report.
With Western knowledge often dominating discourse around scientific and technological advancements, indigenous African knowledge and practices stand at being devalued. This has made African communities struggle to address context-specific problems and developments. This has prompted discussion among African history scholars who are pursuing African traditional knowledge in addressing contemporary challenges. Africans are being admonished to bridge past wisdom with modern development by promoting and adopting traditional knowledge. Renowned scholar of African history and African studies at the University of Texas, Professor Toyin Fowler, calls for a renewed focus on ancestral and traditional wisdom to inspire sustainable and innovative African generations. Professor Toyin was delivering a public lecture on the theme Ancestral Science and Technology for Modern Development. The Faculty of Social Sciences at KNUST, through the Public Lectures Committee, put together the lecture to promote cultural pride and counter the marginalization of African contribution in global discourse.
Do not throw away the legacies of the past, even when you don't understand them. And I use the specific examples drawing from science and technology. Second, while accepting Western ideas, Western science, Western technology, it does not mean you will reject yours in the areas of agri, of health, of architecture, of the environment, because all these have promoted sustainability. Third, generation of students must know about them, because it's by knowing about them that they will create innovations.
Professor Toyin Fowler emphasized the richness of African ideas rooted and guiding all facets of life. The lecture assembled students, leaders and scholars of academia to foster a deeper understanding of ancestral practices and their bearing in current practice of science.
Now, energy was high for the final paper of this year's BECE, which ended yesterday for majority of the candidates. Well, candidates offering Arabic have had one more hurdle to cross, which was today. Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah captured the reactions of the candidates yesterday in the following report.
Just went off some few minutes ago. This means that the final paper for the 2025 BECE is over. We're here to gauge the mood of the students right here. They just finished with their closing assembly. So I want to find out how excited they are, how their paper was and all that. How was the paper for you?
Oh, the paper is okay.
What paper did you write?
I wrote creative arts and French.
And French. Yes. How was it for you?
Oh, it's not that hard, but it's hard.
It's not that hard, but it's hard. Oh, why? What was hard, the French or the creative arts?
Yeah, the French.
How was the paper for you? It was good. How was the French?
It was quite good, right? Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Comment ça va?
Ça va très bien.
What grade are you hopeful of coming out with? 7-1. How was the French for you too?
The French was good.
Okay, what school do you want to go to?
Big Boss.
Big Boss. That's the school you want to go to. And I'm here with students from Kanda Estate Basic School. And how is the feeling like knowing that you've completed your junior high school studies? How is it like?
Means it is normal.
It is normal. Hey, there's no super excitement behind.
Excited. Yeah.
Excited. You're
Excited.
Yeah. What school do you want to go to?
Fatima Girls.
And you?
What school? Senior High.
Okay, and what about you?
Miakai Girls.
And what about you?
Probo Girls.
Okay. But you wrote 2 papers today, creative arts and French.
Yes.
How was it like for you?
It was.
As for me, the French is good.
The French was also good.
I thought you were going to speak French to me.
Mon soeur et ma mère et mon père du France.
What does that mean?
How are you?
What grade are you expecting?
11, 12, not above 20. No.
What school do you want to go to?
Achimota.
What was your favorite amongst all the papers you wrote?
Or mathematics.
What grade are you expecting your overall, the overall papers, when they put everything together, the subjects?
6 months.
Well, that certainly is not how are you in French, but you're still watching the polls. And I'll now take you live to Parliament, where the Minister in charge of Foreign Affairs, Sam Okudzeto-Ablakwa, is addressing Parliament on visa, passport and embassy issues,
leading to concerns among applicants. In response, we have directly engaged USPS to mitigate future disruptions. Measures implemented include staggering mail dispatches to a maximum of 200 packages per day to enhance tracking and delivery efficiency. Mr. Speaker, may I stress that contrary to propaganda out there, no new recruitment has been carried out at our Washington, D.C. mission. All the replacements are distinguished senior Foreign Service officers of many years of impeccable experience and integrity. Our decisive reset intervention, by not looking on, as happened in the past, has sent a very clear message that the Mahama administration will not be complicit in dubious schemes that border on corruption, conflict of interest, abuse of office, and cruel exploitation of clients of our missions abroad. Government's actions have projected a great and positive image of our beloved country. In concluding, Right Honourable Speaker, despite the serious nature of the infractions that led to the temporary closure of the mission, I am pleased to report that the Washington, D.C. mission has been fully reopened. Operations are stabilizing, and confidence in Ghana's diplomatic representation in the United States is being steadily restored. Mr. Speaker, as Minister, I remain resolutely committed to advancing the necessary institutional reforms, ensuring that justice is served in cases of corruption, conflict of interest, and abuse of office, upholding the highest standards of integrity and service delivery across all our missions abroad. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to keep this House informed as both the investigations and reform processes progress. I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I will only take a comment each from each side. Honorable members, just go through the order paper. Take the order paper and just go through. So many questions, and some of the questions is even directed to the minister in connection of this particular issue. So just bear with me. I will take just one comment from each side, and I don't know if even leadership will see sense with me, I will ignore leadership as well. I'm taking one. If even you compromise with me, I will even skip leadership. Yes, Honorable Ranking. So I'll take the ranking. Chairman, are you also talking? So I take the ranking and I take the chairman. Very well. Then I give opportunity to leadership. But please bear in mind, now I have to be straight on the orders. Please, 93.5, a member may comment on a statement for a period not exceeding 5 minutes, and the comment shall not provoke debate. I'm going to strictly adhere to that. I'm doing this because of so many business that we have to conduct. So, Honorable Samuel Bujenapo. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I do agree with you that we need to manage our time very well. But this is a matter that engaged significant national attention. And I recall the minority leader that very day urgently requested for an opportunity to make a statement and demanded that the Foreign Affairs Minister should be here to answer questions. A press conference was organized on the matter. And when we rescheduled the Foreign Affairs Minister, he came under enormous attack. Mr. Speaker, today, such a comprehensive report based on a thorough investigation of the situation has been presented to the House. We cannot limit it to just one person on each side. There is significant interest on both sides of the House. There is significant interest. And so, Mr. Speaker, I think we should allow part 3.3.
Honorable Leader.
3.3.
Honorable Leader, respectfully, I'll go with my ruling. Just look at the questions. The urgent question 1, which is the question was filed by Samuel Bujenapo. The question is soliciting almost the same information. You take the 2B, it's almost the same line. So I think all the information that we need or we need to provide to the nation, we can solicit, if not through the statement, through the questions. So I want to just stick to what I've just said, 1 each, then I'll give the opportunity to leadership. Please bear with me. Yes, Honorable Ranking Member.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me begin by thanking the Honorable Minister for this very elaborate statement given to the House, and also to thank him and welcome his decision to share the report of the Ministerial Investigative Committee to the House, because, Mr. Speaker, at the committee level, we had requested for this report, and we are yet to have a look at the report. Mr. Speaker, let me very quickly make the point that we from this side, the minority, we are not against or opposed to any effort to establish accountability. We don't have any difficulty whatsoever. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, we encourage the minister to ensure that wherever there is rot or wherever there is corruption, he should investigate, root it out, and bring the perpetrators to book. Mr. Speaker, a certain Mr. Kwatin is alleged to have been involved in a corrupt act. That cannot be the burden of this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I make this point. Mr. Speaker, I make this point because in a government machinery, even today, in this government, you may have public servants, civil servants, officials in parts of the government machinery conducting themselves in a manner which is inappropriate. Those people, there should be investigations. If they are found out, they should be brought to book. So we want to assure the minister and assure the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that the Committee on Foreign Affairs, the minority caucus on this committee, fully supports his effort. In any event, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Fred Kwatin was recruited into the Washington mission as far back as 2013, during the time of President Mahama. Mr. Speaker, the contract for which the minister is very unhappy about, Mr. Speaker, the first time Mr. Kwatin was given a similar contract on temporary basis was in the year 2015. And I can furnish the minister with evidence to support the assertions I'm making. Mr. Speaker, the basis for the investigations or the basis of this alleged corruption, and I use the word alleged with great emphasis. Mr. Speaker, what is the basis of it? The basis of it is, to simplify it, is that the mission in Washington is supposed to have gotten into a certain arrangement with Mr. Kwatin's company because, according to the mission, there was some bureaucratic inertia in terms of transmitting visas and passport booklets to applicants. Mr. Speaker, the minister himself is attempting an effort like that here in Ghana, where he's employing courier services for the transmission of passports to applicants. Mr. Speaker, that is the basis for this alleged corruption. Simplicity. Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, there is an Indian company. Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, there is an Indian company called Premium. An Indian company called Premium, which is rendering the same services Mr. Kwatin's company is supposed to have been rendering to the Washington mission, which has become the basis for this allegation of corruption. That company is still rendering the same service today. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, what is the point? The point I seek to make is that the foundation or the basis on which Mr. Kwatin's company was contracted, Mr. Speaker, in and by itself, is not wrong. There is a company, an Indian company, rendering the same service today. Mr. Kwatin's company was given a contract to render that same service on a temporary basis in 2015. Honorable Minister Okudzeto Ablakwa is making strenuous efforts in a welcome manner, commendably, to render the same service to Ghanaians here in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, thirdly, the quantum of money, the funds that are supposed to have been accrued to Mr. Kwatin's company, assuming without admitting, Mr. Speaker, let me also put on record, those are not public funds. Those are funds which are supposed to have been paid to Mr. Kwatin's company on the basis of this Washington mission's contract with him. And so let us be clear, the $1.8 million and the $4 million the minister alluded to, Mr. Speaker, are not funds out of public exchequer. These are amounts that the minister has put together, has estimated to be, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, there's a final point I need to make. Mr. Speaker, so the difficulty the minority have had is the question whether or not the allegation for which reason the minister set up the committee of inquiry warranted the closure of the Washington mission. Mr. Speaker, let me refer you to the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, 1970. Mr. Speaker, it's very important. as the majority leader rightly said, this is a matter which has generated a lot of domestic and international interest. And I'm the ranking with the greatest responsibility. If I may refer you to the Vienna Convention. The Vienna Convention set up copiously the steps that a country ought to take or to adhere to in closing down emissions. The first step, Mr. Speaker, step one, government decision must be at the highest level. There must be a notification to the host country. There must be coordination with the host country. Before the announcement and the reassignment of foreign service officers, the Speaker,
thank you.
These steps have to be adhered to. And the point we made here, and if I may conclude on that,
your point is made.
That, Mr. Speaker, is that the procedure which was adopted,
the
procedure which was adopted to close down the Washington mission was one which is alien to public international law and is not consistent with the Vienna Convention.
Thank you.
And in 48 hours, the minister opened the mission, and that tells us that the decision was a rushed one. We welcome the probe. We don't have a difficulty with the probe, but we will always insist that we should adhere to procedural propriety in terms of how we manage our foreign relations and foreign policy and the missions of our country. That is the position of this minority. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Honorable members, you see, I decided not to pick. You see, these interjections will always waste a lot of time. I beg of you, please.
Record. The minister in briefing this house stated clearly that the gentleman was employed according to the records of the ministry in 2017. He, on the other hand, is telling this house that the gentleman was employed in 2013 without any evidence. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of records, and for us to make progress, it is important that these records are, these records are certain. It's as simple as that. He should lay it. He should just table it so that at least we can verify. It adds to the records of this house.
Honorable Habib, very well. Let me listen to. Let me listen to Honorable Chairman for Foreign Affairs Committee.
Mr. Speaker, having heard the report as presented by the Minister for Foreign Affairs, leading to the closure of the Washington mission, one has no doubt but to conclude that the minister did the right thing. The minister saw a route, rose to the occasion, took the necessary steps, and corrected the situation. Mr. Speaker, the country voted to reset this country.
That's right.
And when the people spoke, they spoke and gave the mandate to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his appointees to correct corrupt practices, whether in this country or abroad. And that is what the minister has done. The minister's report cannot be, no individual of this house should support this practice in any of our missions. Our students just left here. And if our children heard this report and we stand to defend it, please. Please.
Why?
If we say we support the minister, then let's support him all the way. We cannot say we support the minister, turn around and question what the individual did. Please. That is not right. Ghanaians have voted to reset, and the minister is resetting the ministry. The committee supports him in the action to reset. Yes. So let us work together, because that is the mandate that Ghanaians have given us. I stand to encourage the minister that we should go all out. That is the mandate that's been given to us. We will work with the ministry to ensure that Ghana see better days in the future. With these few words, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let me now revert to the leadership. Yes, Honorable Deputy.
Mr. Speaker, with your leave, I yield to the Member of Parliament for Busumi Frehu, Asafo-Adjei.
Yeah, we went together. Honorable Asafo-Adjei, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to also commend the minister for availing himself to brief the House and give us some information that is very critical and crucial. Mr. Speaker, just to also emphasize and make the point once again for emphasis that this side of the House, the minority on the committee, is not and will never be against the minister's quest to probe or to ensure that the right thing is done. Mr. Speaker, but diplomacy, Mr. Speaker, is tactfulness. Mr. Speaker, diplomacy is backdoor talks. Diplomacy is consultation. Diplomacy is, Mr. Speaker, diplomacy is key and must know that there are some things that should and must not be openly, overtly, or covertly putting out there. Mr. Speaker, I have the minister's letter, which designates a team of people who are supposed to take over at the Washington Embassy. Mr. Speaker, Ambassador Mrs. Jane Gasu Aheto, head of the mission. Mr. Bernard Kwetsin, head of consular. Mrs. Bernice A. Hodegbeke, minister. Mrs. Emanuela Kakari Ajima. Mr. Speaker, there are records in the ministry between 2011 and 2013 of one of the members here engaging in key issues that are fraudulent and corrupt. Mr. Speaker, she was called back from the New York mission. Mr. Speaker, emphasis, Madam Jane Gasu Aheto. Mr. Speaker, she was at the New York Embassy. Mr. Speaker, she was involved in corruption and she was called back to Ghana. And out of settlement and arrangement, she was made to repay the monies that was involved in this issue. So for the minister to tell us that embassy is now, the ministry is now taking, with all the descriptions and nomenclatures, professional, exceptional ambassadors of Ghanaian, incorruptible to the Washington ministry, we beg to differ. This matter, if I've not mentioned it here, was under, the country didn't even know about it. That is how diplomacy is treated. Yeah. It doesn't mean that we should not apprehend or we should not deal with people who are involved in this issue. Mr. Speaker, the next thing to say, as it stands now, for the past 2 weeks, that the ministry announced that the embassy will be reopened. Mr. Speaker, the embassy was reopened but was not functional. Mr. Speaker, there was no delegation from Ghana that got to Washington. Rather, the minister assigned some members from New York to go and take charge in the Washington Embassy. And this has caused a lot of Ghanaians in Washington, the devastation, the challenges, the issue, the hardship going through to get visa and passports. Mr. Speaker, let it be on record.
Thank you.
That the decision to close embassy has caused Ghana much more harm than good. And we are becoming a joke in the eyes of the public.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Speaker, we must put that on record.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Isn't somebody supposed to speak before you all do?
Honorable members, please, we've heard you. Let's listen to the majority leader. Yes, leader. Yes, leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think this House should thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs for coming to this House should thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs for coming to fully disclose to us exactly what happened in our Washington mission. So, Speaker, I think that clearly the investigations reveal a number of infractions. First and foremost, this is the only house that can decide on the fees and charges that any institution can levy on any person for a service rendered by the Republic of Ghana. This is the only house. And to the extent that this house did not approve of any charge for a service in the acquisition of a visa to enter Ghana, that is a clear infraction of the laws of Ghana. No matter how valuable the service, no matter how good intention it may have been, clearly there has been a violation of the laws of Ghana. And if for nothing, this House should be interested in that. That how did it happen that civil servants on their own, without parliamentary approval, sat down and created a business whereby services were rendered for the acquisition of Ghanaian visas and payments were made without the approval of this parliament? No matter what it is, there is a clear infraction of the law that this House should be interested in. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we may dispute when Mr. Kwarteng assumed office at the embassy. But there's no dispute that he was the IT officer when he assumed office. Whichever date, but he assumed office as the IT officer of the embassy. I'm just giving you the benefit of the doubt. I'm just giving you the benefit of the doubt. That as the IT officer, that he and it is said a spouse own a company that were providing IT services to the same organization. Mr. Speaker, even if there is a similar contract in the UK for the acquisition of Ghanaian visas by an Indian company, let us not lose sight of the fact that for our IT officer at the Washington office to now set up a private company to render IT services, and the fees goes to him, no matter how good intentioned, that is a clear case of conflict of interest. Another clear instance of infraction of our laws. Mr. Speaker, I think this House is the defender of the interest of the ordinary people who approach government for services. And I must commend the minister for the effort that he took or made to stop this. To stop this. Mr. Speaker, the day that the statement was made here, in this house, on my way home, a friend called me and told me that the figure we are even quoting is below what they were actually paying. And what he told me, and he's ready to testify, what he told me was that it was deliberately made in such a way that you could not on your own apply online for a visa. Deliberately. So even though you could apply online, it became impossible for anyone to apply online so that you will go and then seek the services of the company. And this is where conflict of interest comes in. So if the person in charge of our IT system at our mission has a business of providing that service, why won't it be easy to make it impossible for people who can ordinarily apply online to apply so that you will seek the services of his company? That is what conflict of interest is all about. So, Mr. Speaker, such a matter cannot come before this House and we will attempt to belittle it. We cannot attempt to belittle it. This is a very serious matter happening not here in Ghana, but in Washington. Our institutions had degenerated to a point where we were exporting such practices abroad. We had done it in Ghana, SML, whatever it was, so many concocted arrangements that today we have unending investigations. National Service Secretariat, everywhere you turn. And we're not satisfied doing it domestically. We now decided that it is a commodity worth exporting to foreign countries, and we're exporting it to foreign countries.
Honorable Leader, your term is almost up.
Mr. Speaker, I think that Yoko must investigate the matter. We expect the report of Yoko's investigation expedited and presented to this House by the minister. Because this House is going to insist on swift and certain punishment for such violations of the flag and coat of arms of Ghana abroad in the United States. Mr. Speaker, I heard somebody talk about hardship. Can you calculate the hardship of all those who had to go through this grueling treatment and had to cough out their money? We are talking about hardship. Whose hardship are we talking about here? Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much.
Thank you. Honor leadership. Let me seek your pressure. We have committed ourselves to take certain statements. Can we continue? Come again. Can we continue with the statement, then before then we come to questions? Debbie, no. So we will take the statement. I'm pleading with you because, yes, I'll take the statement, then I come to questions. Ministers, bear with me in place. So let me invite, there's a joint statement on the city appreciation and Ghana's agricultural opportunity by the minority leader Osahene Alexander Kwame Nafanyamakin and Honorable Elvis Oseme Sadapa. Joint statement. Yes.